This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I think people know who I am. Oh. At 9:01, I call the special city council meeting of the governing body of the city of Blanco to order. Roll call.
Mayor Lumpy,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Salcedo.
Here.
Councilmember McClellan,
Present.
Councilmember Smith,
Present.
Councilmember Barron,
Present.
Councilmember Devine.
Great. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to move on to announcements. The only announcement that I have is Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Next up, we have public comments. First, we have Chuck McCann.
Morning. Not much to say other than on the other 205 Blackberry.
It doesn't look like it's turning on.
There it is.
Is it? I'm just here in case anybody had any questions for us, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Granberry.
Hello, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jan. And what I'm here this morning to talk about is I like to volunteer for the Planning and Zoning Committee. I've been a resident in Blanco all my life. I had 4 generations from here. And I want to be part of the planning process. I understand why people come to Blanco because of the atmosphere and the school system. I just feel that the resources we have, we need to be sure that we're doing the right thing and look to see if we can look for different resources to provide possible growth for our water system in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Cassidy.
Good morning, council. I just wanted to read a few emails that I've received from residents regarding their concern over a vape shop possibly coming to town. I received one from Olivia Mulvaney. She would like to express her serious concerns for allowing a vaping business in Blanco, especially at the location that is next to 2 of our lovely churches, Children's Playground and State Park. From Don Clark, I want to object to the Blanco allowing the establishment of this business in our town. The life-threatening facts regarding the products to be sold in this store should be a warning that it is bad for the residents of Blanco. This is a poor image to be seen by people passing through our town. From Leslie Trammell, we are extremely concerned about our beautiful small town. This is a wonderful town full of caring people. It would be beyond unfortunate to have a vaping genius within walking distance for our youth from the high school or middle school. Blair and Candy Ruby, thank you for your reviewing the wisdom of allowing a vape and drug paraphernalia business in our Blanco. My heart sickens that someone would want to align this sort of business in our little town. If it's not too late, please quickly pass an ordinance to prevent all this happening. Yeah, thank you, sorry. I forgot to reset it. David Brown, I own 2 properties in Blanco and consider a vape store to be inconsistent with the overall wholesome nature of the community. especially considering the location's proximity to two houses of worship. Barbara Tomek has recently come to my attention that a building permit has been issued to Blanco Main Street Holding. This project is for a Blanco vaping establishment. What a shock. Just concerned about having it next to the Methodist Church. Wendell Moore, I've been told that the city has issued a building permit for a Vape Genius establishment on Main Street next to the Methodist Church, across the street from the Catholic Church and close enough to the state park. This establishment will be at the entrance of the city of Blanco when traveling north through our city. This business is a jeopardy to our children and does not project the vision of the citizens of Blanco. David Park, understand that a permit has been requested and perhaps granted to Baker Genius Store to open a business at 48 Main. I respectfully request that this permit be denied. Frank Stevenson, understand that the city council has issued a commercial building permit for the purpose of opening a vape store next to the United Methodist Church. Would urge council to reconsider this permit or adopt an ordinance that would not permit such a store within 1,000 feet of churches, schools, or playgrounds. Gregory and Catherine Miller, again, concerned about the commercial building permit on 48 Main and concerned about the vape shop. Not a shared value that our residents will hold dear. Carlos Coy, pastor of United Methodist Church, concerned about the vape shop and vaping store being planned next to the Blanco Methodist Church. Scott Anderson, breaks my heart to see this breakdown happening in Blanco. E-cigarettes are not just used for tobacco. You can put any illegal substance in an e-pipe and it will reach the bloodstream. Concerned about the residents. And Marty and Barbara Rolig, again, just concerned about the vaping store opening next to the Methodist Church and across the street from St. Ferdinand's Catholic Church. And Shirley Cage, again, expressing her concerns over the Vape Genius located on 48 Main and close to the churches and children's playground. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the presentation, which I'm actually going to postpone this until the next meeting. I need to do one more thing before I present it. So moving on to new business. Item 1, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of replat and setback variance request at 205 Hackberry Street.
Morning, Mayor, Council. I'd like to thank everybody for coming here on a special meeting at 9 a.m. I know it is not a normal time, and I do understand everybody's time commitments, and I applaud you for that. So this is consideration. Basically, this went to Planning Commission last week, and then before that, this was heard in November. This is a replat of 2 lots, and it's an existing 2 buildings on 205 Hackberry. On the corner, if you're familiar with it, on the corner there is a single-family home, and then to the side of it was probably a garage or something that ended up being an upholstery shop. It's probably being used for several commercial enterprises. And what the owner is doing here, the owner developer, is all he's really doing is he's keeping that as a single-family home, and then the upholstery shop or business shop at one time is now being just basically just updated and made into a single family home. So what's being requested is the replat, but also being requested are variances for the existing setbacks, which the home's already there. Both buildings are already there, so they're existing conditions. So we look at the variance as far as hardship, there is a hardship. They're existing buildings. And then the other thing that when you analyze it is they're improving the situation because instead of lot 30 and lot 29, where they're splitting them, they're actually flipping those lots over. I don't know if we included that with the other drawing, but the one they're actually doing, actually you can actually see the lines. So they're actually flipping those lot lines so that 29 and 30 are not splitting the homes.
I'm talking about moving it from here.
Yeah, that's right. So essentially, those are the two variances, one for setback and then the other for lot size. The conversion from commercial to single family, there's a lot size variance. The Planning Commission met and they do recommend to you to approve both variances and the replat that basically corrects that whole situation. You have questions of staff, and if you don't, the applicant's also here as well.
I would say, Mayor, Council, I was at both of the planning and zoning hearings, discussions on this, and it makes really good sense. I think the one variance is because they couldn't quite get 7 inches to hit what would have been necessary to hit code, but it looks like an improvement to the current property and also meeting some additional need for housing and making it more consistent with the neighborhood to go back from having it a business to a residence. But having seen and heard from it, I would recommend it. I would make a motion that council approve the recommended variances as they were presented by planning and zoning.
Councilmember Barron has moved to approve the replat and setback variance as approved by P&Z. Is there a second? Councilmember Smith has seconded. Discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 2, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of Cielo Springs Drive in US 281 replat of lots 1 and 2, 5.09 acres.
This is just a replat of lots 1 and 2, like stated. There was very little comments on this, and Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval of this plat as well. Questions of staff?
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the replat of lots 1 and 2, Cielo Springs Drive.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion to approve lots 1 and 2 of Cielo Springs Drive. Is there a second?
A second.
Councilmember Barron has seconded. Discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item 3, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of ordinance 2022-0003, establishing certain location restrictions upon the sale of adult-oriented products or services.
Good morning, Mayor and Council again. First of all, I'd like to give just a little bit of background on why we're here on this. First of all, one of the things that we try to do with administration is listen to people. If there are things that the UDC hasn't covered or ordinances that don't protect the citizens, we try to make sure that happens. In this particular case, we actually don't have an application for this type of business. This is being proactive because the application that you actually received or heard about is actually just for a remodel. Now, that may be that type of use is going to the location that the neighbor is saying, but that is not the information that we have at this time. Right now, we know that there's a remodel being done near a church. But this is a good ordinance because what this ordinance does do is it does protect any future uses for all areas. And that would include, and I'll just read page 2, retail. So the sale, provision of adult-oriented business products or services in any location. Number 1, a retail store used primarily and substantially for the sale of tobacco products and or other products that contain nicotine, electronic smoke devices, and or related accessories. And then it goes on. And then number 2, a retail store that devotes 25% or more of the floor area or display area that derives 50% or more of the gross sales tax receipts. And it goes on. The other provisions to this that you need to understand before you vote is that what we're looking at is a circumference, an area. We're not saying that you can't sell this product or do these types of services in the entire city. It's just areas near churches, schools, and public parks. And it's within a 750. So if you took your circle and you just drew around, it's 750 feet around these different places. Additionally, the other protection for any kind of businesses that want to come in is that you as a council can grant a variance. So that's one of the options. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to let the attorney kind of clean up whatever I did to the sake right.
Thank you, Warren. Council, Mayor, a couple things. This morning, I distributed a slightly revised version of this ordinance. The revisions are really mostly administrative in effect. I slightly changed the caption, and I hope each of you have this. I passed this.
I don't believe I did.
Martin has to pass this to Darren.
Oh, man.
Okay, Martin.
Yeah.
Just checking people's on the phone.
Yeah.
Everything in this revised version is the same, except three small points. Number 1, I slightly changed the caption to describe in the caption that this ordinance provides for certain penalties, fines, and enforcement mechanisms, including abatement and a potential injunction. Secondly, I added some statutory language in the ordination provision, be it ordained language, et cetera, that's required by law. And then thirdly, at the very end of this draft, I've added language that makes it effective immediately upon your vote. And to explain that a little bit, in a general law city, if you pass an ordinance that provides for penalties, fines, and other penalties effectively, it's not effective until it's published in a newspaper of general circulation, meaning your Blanco County News, unless the ordinance provides that it's effective immediately. So other than those 3 changes, I would like to point out that 750-foot circumference that city administrator described is taken out of your current UDC on bars and nightclubs, which says 750 feet. There was some discussion about should it be 300, should it be 1,000, et cetera. The thought was to stick with some sort of precedent that made common sense. And I would also point out to you, very importantly, all of the preface language here. We're fortunate to have a really comprehensive study done by the CDC in October 2021 that really drilled into all the literature and information and the explosive growth of e-cigarette usage among our youth across the country. And nationally, we're like 13% of high school kids and 3% of middle school kids vaping. Now that's a father talking right there, not a lawyer. I get pretty excited about it, but I think it's very important for you to have reference to that. I think it's also very important for you to have reference to the fact that the preface states that you have considered the most narrow, reasonable regulation in light of public safety concerns and property rights and First Amendment rights of other citizens in the community. And having considered those things, you're taking the action you are if you do today. So with that, I'm available for questions.
You said something about the square footage or so much of the store dedicated to this kind of thing. Does this mean that suppose they were to open a convenience store there, could they still sell vaping products at that convenience alcoholic beverages where they sell beer and that kind of thing. It's not a beer joint, but they do sell the product there. Do they still sell the product there
Yes,
under those circumstances?
yes, this ordinance really, by design, careful design, has two alternative looks. One is sort of a general statement, hey, if you're in the business, you have a location where the principal purpose of the retail operation is the sale of tobacco products, electronic cigarettes, and everything else is incidental. Or there's a specific statistical test. So this is enforceable under two different concepts, where you'll see some head shops, they call them, that don't sell electronic cigarettes. They sell CBD oil, they sell other things that are not really determined yet to be a substantial public health safety concern. And then it takes also out of the situation a regular convenience store or other store that's not primarily in the business of selling these products. It's just an incidental part of their business. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
So it says, the retail store leader devotes 25% or more of floor area or display area. What's the definition of the display area? Is that stuff on the shelves or is that the display behind the counter?
That's any and all display area in the entire store. That would be my interpretation of it. Now, a judge may tell you different, but my interpretation will be all shelf space in front, in the rear, the whole area where there's potential display area. If 25% of it is more, that would be out. Not just behind the counter, but any display area within the store.
Right, and I'll ask that, and that also includes, according to this, it's including any accessories.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Okay, that's, I would point out also, since there's a question about enforcement, the statute, this ordinance would also declare that any such uses that we've talked about here are public nuisances and subject to abatement immediately by enforcement chief and his team taking abatement proceedings. So again, importantly, as city administrator pointed out, there are variance mechanisms here for someone that comes in and has got a problem with this. They can appeal to P&Z and you to see, hey, are we meeting the objectives here or not? So that, you know, we're really trying to be mindful of the rights of other parties as well as the public safety concerns that we have, that you have. Thanks.
There's no public comments at this time. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2022-0003, revised this date, February the 14th, 2022, with the following modification. Under section A, where the sentence reads, is prohibited within 700 feet of a church, school, or public park, or residential district, I would like to read it also read, or playground. What? Well, okay, all right. I'm going to add also or daycare.
Or what?
Daycare.
Councilmember Smith has moved to approve ordinance 2022-0003 with the change of section
A
to include the measurement of the distance between the location where the sale of such products or services are sold and the church, school, or park, residential district, or daycare, or
Playground.
playground.
Yep.
Is there a second? Councilmember Devine has seconded. Discussion?
So I have a question about the person that applied for the permit. So the next step for them, I mean, I feel for them because if they bought that property, invested that property, and now we're pulling the rug out from under them, I mean, are we setting ourselves up for any litigation here?
The answer is there might be litigation, but we're not infringing on anyone's rights, as far as we know. And city administrator pointed out, the only permit that's been issued in this matter, I've inspected the permit myself, is for a remodel. It happens to mention the name of the business, Vapor Genius, but there's, to our knowledge, no sale, no retail operation currently in operation. You may be right that in fact, they've invested in this property with the view to do that operation, but that's not yet occurring. If it was in fact occurring right now, we'd have a problem under the US Constitution and the Texas Constitution and the ex post facto law. We can't make something illegal and apply the law retroactively under our laws. In this case, we don't think that's the case, but they may have an argument about that at that point. There's no guarantee that the city won't find itself in some sort of dispute with this party or someone else at some future date.
I can add, everything takes some form of risk. If there is a next step or there's any kind of action that comes from this, now or in the future, we as a council will have decision-making ability. We'll bring back any issues that come back to you. Thanks.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries 4-1 with Mayor Pro Tem Sauceda opposing. We are going to move on to item 4, consideration, discussion, and take action on assignment of 3 new commissioners to the Planning and Zoning Commission as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission.
On council, there were five people that had applied for this. The Planning Commission came up with 3 recommendations. We have that email from Susan Moore, our Marissa Minzik, Andy Bates Vicencio, and sorry if I'm screwing these names, and Laura Swinson. Of course, you can take that recommendation or you can choose from any of the 5 that are applied.
Thank you. And how many vacant spots are there right now?
3.
There are 3.
I would like to recommend that we consider the person who spoke today, Jan Brandberg, because she is a lifelong resident of the community. From what I understand, the other 3 have not been in the community very long. Not that would necessarily exclude them, but I would like to get someone on there who has a dog in the hunt, so to speak, who is a lifelong member of the community. I don't know how to make that determination, other than maybe put a little longevity clause in there.
I would just comment, I was at the meeting. This is the second time that the issue arose of whether, and this was the commissioners discussing the presence of applicants at a meeting and whether their desire to serve, having them come before the commission and request it. And the recommendation that came forward were for the 3 applicants who were there and gave their reason to serve and wanted to serve and requested their inclusion. So there was discussion among the commissioners as to whether to consider others, and the recommendation that came before us is their recommendation based on their discussions the night of the meeting with the applicant.
I know in relation to Ms. Brandberg, it was my understanding, she didn't get the word about this primarily because she's been out of town, taking care of some family in another community. She was not able to come to the last city council meeting either, but she does have a real interest in serving.
So are these 3 at large positions, or is it one, what the criteria is, or
I believe,
are all these actual citizens?
I believe they all live in the city limits.
Is that the openings we have?
Yes.
There's just 3 openings. The other thing that, is, there's always going to be other open positions. So whoever doesn't get on now, if they're still interested, it's a great way to learn about the city. And I think that we'll eventually get anyone that wants to be interested on. So.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion. And first off, I'll tell you that I appreciate everybody with their interest to serve. I mean, a lot of times we're out struggling to find people to fill vacancies on committees. And I think it speaks well of our P&Z Commission. It speaks well of our citizens and people with their interests. But I'm going to recommend that we follow the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission and appoint the 3 applicants that they selected.
Councilmember Smith has moved to approve the 3 new commissioners that the P&Z submitted for approval. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Councilmember Barron has seconded. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember McClellan opposing. Thank you. It's Monday.
Early.
Item 5, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of amendment to ordinance 2022-0001 Highway 281 Overlay District Steering Committee to add 1 member from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, we have a steering committee for the 281 Overlay District, and the makeup of that committee was designated by the consultants requesting. They did ask that someone from Planning and Zoning be on that committee, and because the committee was down so many members, we delayed that. In the meantime, we've already got 1 P&Z member representing us on the capital improvement asset management. Another one is working on downtown revitalization and scenic city. So looking at from the new members, I have been approached by a member we just appointed, Marissa Mensick, who said that she would be willing to do the extra work to serve on that steering committee as well, with Planning and Zoning as the representative there. So I would nominate Ms. Mensick, now that she is a new commissioner, to represent Planning and Zoning as a steering committee member for the 281 Corridor Overlay Project.
Councilmember Barron has moved to appoint Marissa Mensick to the 281 Overlay District Steering Committee as the Planning and Zoning Commissioner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Smith has seconded. Discussion?
What other, who is representative, or what organizations, if you will, are represented on that committee?
Well, right now, there really aren't organizations. There's someone who owns property, undeveloped land, somebody who is a resident on 281, somebody who has a business on 281, the city council representative, who is me, and then there's somebody from planning and zoning is the fifth. I think the thing that's important is, and then we have historical commission. Wendy has been Cambridge. Rudy Nino was contacted to also be there. And we're going to be adding to this. I mean, the steering committee is just a minimum number of folks. The whole goal of the steering committee is to make sure that that communication continues to go out and that all of the organizations that want get included in communication. The meetings are public and posted. We had our first one and had some folks coming. So there will be public hearings and public input and town halls on the process. The steering committee was just a way to make sure that the folks that are doing the work are staying on focus to be doing what it is we want them to try to be doing for us.
I've had some other people express an interest in being on that committee.
Come on.
They're on 281.
Yeah, the meetings are public and posted, and if they'll let me know as well, I do an email notification. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with what all is going on here if you have to watch the website every day because there's always something getting posted. So if there's a particular interest in that, please let them tell me and I'll do a special, by the way, just got posted, so come on down.
All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item 6, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of Tex CDBG contract amendment modification request contract number 7220040.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next two items, 6 and 7, you're going to kind of be looking at, and you might think that this is something that administration can handle without bringing to council. And as I'm starting my arms around all this and figuring out what can and should go to council, if there's any time that there's kind of a question of that, I'm generally going to bring it to council for transparency. But you can also see the funds that are being expended, that the public also has that opportunity. Having said that, this is a consideration for an amendment or modification of the Texas Community Development Block Grant contract, and you'll sometimes notice that I'm looking back and asking people things. So, do you have anything you want to add to this change? This is on.
Yes.
Yes.
So this, you can see what requested from the engineers. Questions?
From what I understand on this, the location for the lift station is still the same. It's going to be made larger to allow for the potential of the generator, should we need to add that. So this is just letting the people who are providing the grant that we've gone to know that there may be some change in the construction so that the grant request stays consistent and compliant through the process. But it hasn't really made any substantive change for us as the city or as the council.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll use myself on this.
Let me say, what is the motion? I'll make it if I can figure out what it is. I move that we adopt the changes, approve the proposed changes to the Texas CDB grant contract, number 7220040.
Councilmember Barron has moved to approve the amendment modification request of Texas CDBG contract number 7220040. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Sauceda has seconded. Any further discussion?
I have a question. I can tell my light works. Maybe it's someone. Anyway, I can project because I was a thespian when I was younger. So my question is, this is the project of moving the lift station, correct? So we're not changing that. I heard someone say the lift station is staying in the same place, but you meant the
same
the new
change
location.
place. Yes, the same new place.
The original start was to waterproof, it's in the floodplain, they were gonna waterproof it in the floodplain. That's when it was originally done in like 2019. Now they're gonna move it out of the floodplain. So instead of
Correct.
waterproofing it in the floodplain, they're moving it out of the floodplain.
Correct. I just wanted to clarify that the lift station is going to stay.
All in favor? The motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Smith abstaining. Item 7, consideration, discussion, and take action on approval of change order to the water treatment plant contract due to include discharge pump valves and fittings, replacement of leaking valves and fittings while the tank is out of service.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is another one of these, it's under $2,000. The price, the increase to the price is $23,708.75. This is to install new discharge pump and ground valve fittings, replace existing ones that now leak. This was requested by Freeland and Turk, and it was also approved. The CIMAC committee, the capital improvement committee, management committee reviewed this, and this is an approved item. So we just need council approval for this additional.
I would just say, and Zach, thank you, brought this to our attention through the construction, that these valves are leaking. And the only time they can be replaced is going to be at this phase in construction while the tank's empty. If we don't do it now, we'll have a new water system with leaking valves. Oh boy. So this is one of those, we really don't have a choice. The equipment is defective and it will not work like it's supposed to work. And this is our window to get it fixed.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the change order of the water treatment plant contract to include the discharge pump and valves and fittings for approximately $24,000.
Councilmember Smith has moved to approve the change order to the water treatment plant contract to include discharge pump valves and fittings for around $24,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Devine has seconded. Discussion?
Mayor, I have a question for the council. So late last week, we prepared a change order and sent it over to one. That total change order is for about $52,000. It includes replacement of the discharge pump, valves, and fittings. It also includes valves and fitting replacement of the intake. This work was requested by Public Works. The valves were originally to be salvaged. They've been salvaged, they're on site, we've looked at them. They're old, they're starting to rust, they're in fair condition. And we agree with Public Works and the committee that those valves and fittings should also be replaced as needed. So the change order before you actually includes discharge pump, valves and fittings, and the intake valves and fittings. You're more than welcome to approve the discharge and do the other change order later. We've combined both of them and we're ready to proceed with the pricing that's been given by the contractor.
I would say that was not the recommendation of the committee. The committee did not recommend the discharge or the intakes. Because that can be done at any time. And because there's not that window we have to hit like we have to hit with this. And yes, they're old, but we know these are leaking. We don't know about the others. They haven't adequately been tested yet. So I would like us to stay with our original motion, which was the recommendation of the committee, which was to do the ones we know are leaking, that we have to hit this window, and then have some time to decide the others, because those can be done at another time.
Any further discussion?
It's kind of tricky. You like to get it. We rely, if we're gonna have water from the river, we really need to make sure that it operates. On the other hand, if we don't have the funds to do it right now, then I think it would be wise to wait.
I've got a question for Tom. And I'm not disputing what you say by any means, but with the logistics of doing this, I understand that if you've got a tank and you've got a discharge valve on it, the tank, you have to drain the tank to replace the valve. But on the intake valves, can that be done could you confirm that can be done at any time?
It can be done at any time.
You just have to shut the plant down, but
It's a lot easier to do it now, obviously, with the plant out of service. Another thing to consider is if you wait, the price will go up. Right now, the contractors are giving us pricing that lasts about 10 days. And we're provided pricing a couple of months ago on this. They had to reprice it. The price went up about $2,000 or $3,000. So this is something that's probably going to have to be done. I understand you don't have the money, you need to wait. I understand these things. But the price will go up, and I ultimately will be talking about it.
thank you. I'd like to leave the motion as it stands with the consideration that if our capital improvements committee comes back with another recommendation, that they can do it in a timely fashion while the contractor is still on site. We know there may be a cost escalation due to material prices, but the labor function would still be able to be done at the same time.
All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Item 8, consideration, discussion, and take action on modification of memorandum of agreement between the City of Blanco and Streetscape Committee.
I'll do this. We've been working, I'm the liaison for Streetscape. We've been working with them in the prior several months ago in the council meeting. We basically authorized Streetscape to contract directly with Main Street Architects for the design phase of phase 1. And that they could expend their funds, and portion of that had been contributed by the city. Going back and looking at their memorandum that we had in between the city and Streetscape, it didn't allow them to do that. I requested Tim Tuggy to revise the agreement. That's what he's tendered to us in this package, and I recommend approval.
Councilmember Smith has made a motion for approval of the amended MOU between the City of Blanco and the Streetscape Committee. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Barron has seconded. Discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Don't believe we need to go into executive session. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Councilmember Smith has motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Barron has seconded the motion. All in favor? So at 9:50, we are adjourned.